Today I'm going to discuss a group of a few different people who are false ambassadors into one video because they are brief subjects, yet many are following them, so they need to be exposed as being false. I will start off with the man who believes that he is one of the two witnesses. He goes by the name GILLAMRL. He uses a system of chapter and verse numbers lining up and mirroring one another to identify his claims. As with the others that I have spoken of, he appears to be genuinely sincere. He wrote me a few months back to inform me that he is the real deal, he said. He believes this because he believes that he had some divine intervention where he was given some drawing that he put together and that he claims is the reed that is spoken of by John in Revelation 11. Actually, I think if I remember what he said right, I believe he said that he's the reincarnation of John, or a dual representation of him, I'm not sure which. In this divine drawing, he says that it points to a Death Star that is hiding behind a moon holograph, if I understood him correctly. Don't laugh. Satan has went to a great deal of effort to convince many that there are aliens that are coming and that they tie in with government conspiracies and such. And that people are possessed by aliens already and all sorts of stuff. This man has nearly 4 million video views, so there is a group of people who believe his nonsense, or at least they're intrigued by what he has to say. You go to all the different sites with aliens and stuff. It's amazing the popularity that this is getting out there. Everybody wants to hear everything but the truth. I'm not going to go into his drawing. I'm just going to point out that in our discussion I told him what the true measuring rod is that the temple was measured with, and he rejected it. Well, it just so happens that Yeshua, our Messiah, testified to what I am saying is the measuring rod. He told us what the true measuring rod is. It is the reed spoken of in Revelation 11 and the plummet that is spoken of in Zechariah 4 that the temple was finished with. In John chapter 12 verse 48, Yeshua says that he that sets me aside, and he is the Logos of Elohim, we read in John 1:1, and does not lay hold of my sayings, has one that judges him. The word, or the Logos that I have spoken, the same will judge him in the last days. Some of you probably get tired of hearing about the measuring rod because I speak of it so often, but it is a reality that our Creator is measuring His children with what He created them to become. His Logos is His character, and His word defines it. We are measured by becoming His word, just as His Son became His word. We are not measured by some silly drawing with ET in it that points to some imaginary space station that is hiding behind what I think this guy is saying is a non-existent moon, but rather a holograph of it. This guy is dangerous because he also speaks of a 7-year timeline, as so many others do. I think he says that Yeshua is returning in 2018, if I remember right, or maybe it's 2019 or something. I don't know. It's been several months now. And 7 years from now, Yeshua's return will long be over with. I wrote him back about the need to keep the commandments, and he fired back with babble that I was saying that we are saved by keeping the law, yet I never once spoke such a thing. It's what Satan's servants do. They actually want to twist things. I see that happening even today, people responding to me, twisting what's been said. The point is, he was making his position that we are saved by grace and that we do not need to keep the commandments known. One thing about Satan's servants is they always lie against the truth. In his response to me, where I spoke of the need to keep the commandments, he came back with the typical verses from the abomination of desolation, Saul of Tarsus, that he used to uphold to his beliefs, and everybody else used to uphold their false beliefs about not needing to keep the Torah. I have spoken in other videos about the overwhelming proof that is found in the true scriptures that Saul was an imposter, so there's no use speaking of this man's error any further than this. All followers of Saul of Tarsus and his teachings are apostate, and they bear the mark of the beast. And this man certainly is a follower of Saul of Tarsus. One thing that I do want to note, however, is Satan does have an interesting angle with this man. He always mixes in something that is true. I've given you examples of this in the last few days even. Yesterday I spoke that the man that goes by the name of witness to the 144,000 correctly speaks that Saul is false. He also correctly speaks that we need to keep the commandments, yet he himself keeps a perversion of them because he follows the traditions of Judaism, mixes them in with them. I also mentioned a couple of days earlier that the false prophet Ron Wineland was given from his father, the devil, that Yeshua would return on the Feast of First Fruits 2012, and this is correct. Yet he is 52 days off from when this feast is because he follows a false counting system because he has refused the truth about our Creator's calendar and how it ties in with the count to this feast. Well, Satan's servants have part truths and we mix them in. They've been given them. He gives them to them for a reason. Ron also speaks that we must keep the commandments, but he is even further off than this man who calls himself the witness to the 144,000 in his perversions of them. And they both have the false Saturday Sabbath in common. This man GILLAMRL has something correct as well. He was led by his father Satan to know that Yeshua is the first witness. I marvel at how he has given each of his false prophets something that our Creator's true prophet proclaims. He even has one false prophet that I will be speaking of in the coming days that correctly understands that the Sabbaths are determined by the new moons. And he has more than one false servants that haven't necessarily called themselves prophets that understand this as well. So he stages all sorts of counterfeits. And he mixes in the truth to do so, to lure people that are coming to the truth. He obviously has done this to add confusion to the mix. People can say to themselves, well, this other prophet preaches that Saul is false too, and over here this prophet also claims that the Sabbaths are to be determined by the new moons, and this other prophet also says that Yeshua is the first witness, or this other prophet also claims that he will return on the Feast of First Fruits. Hopefully you can see the cleverness of his design in doing this. And him doing this certainly makes things confusing, but you have to understand why this is being allowed. Satan cannot do or stage anything unless he is allowed to by our Creator. Our Creator is looking for those who will believe him, so he allows Satan to set up counterfeits because Satan's counterfeits cannot be the truth. They can only have truth mixed in with them. We have to turn away from these false teachers. As soon as you see that someone's teaching that Saul of Tarsus is his doctrines, just click on the channel and never go back to it. You don't click off of it. No reason to listen to that person anymore. Same way with anything else. When you see something that's true, you know how to tune people out. You have to guard his truth and guard his word. His word does not testify to one of these impostors, so why would you believe them? His word only testifies to his true servant. He sent forth a sign that he had another one of his servants record a few thousand years ago to prove who his servant today is. But most of you will not believe him. You will not believe his sign. He authorized his servant to turn the water into blood and had one of his servants record that this would happen nearly 2,000 years in advance, but you will not believe him on this either. And all the other evidence, the works that he's sent me to do testify to who I am as well, who he's made me. It is time that you all wake up to why Satan has been allowed to set his traps. It is by design because our Creator is looking for a certain type of mindset that will believe him and follow after him, who will not follow after Satan and his servants, who will run from everything that's false. Okay, on to the next three false ambassadors. The false Messiah that I spoke of the other day that calls himself Lord Rael is picking up steam, and he will continue to do so. I'm not sure about these other three that I'll speak of today. They are delusional, but they do have people following them. One of them is a former traffic officer whose name is Sergio Torop, who now goes by the name of Bessarion. And he says that he is the Son of the Most High. I guess Bessarion means teacher. I was unable to find a list of his specific beliefs, but from what I read, there is a common thread of mysticism that the world easily embraces today. The things that I read that he had written, he says that he has come back to finish what he started before. Well, that's strange. I read that our Messiah will return in the clouds to harvest that which is finished, which is his Father's temple. In any case, what little that is revealed about what Sergio represents, he is an obvious fraud, but I'm sure that he believes in his delusions, nevertheless, just as they all do. No different than everyone else in the world believes in what they believe in. Satan has been busy. Yet the scriptures say that, it's recorded by an eyewitness, that Satan has deceived the world. You need to believe that scripture, because this is what's happened. This is why we must choose to live under our Creator's protective wings, and this does not result from coming to Him on our own terms. We have to come to Him on His terms and fight to be under His wings. Sergio lives in Siberia and has a following of about 5,000 that live in a community with him. And I read that he has about 10,000 followers worldwide. I'm not sure how old that article was. And the article said the numbers were growing. His followers claim that he radiates love, and they say, no doubt about it, he is the Messiah. Here is the problem. I read that the true Messiah is going to return bearing a sword out of his mouth and his robe dipped in blood. And of course he will radiate love when all evil's purged out and everything that opposes his Father's will is purged out. But he's not returning radiating love. Well, actually that's love too, to purge out evil, but that's another, certainly not what this person's followers would call love. Sergio does not match the truth in any way, so I'll move on to number 2. The reincarnated Jesus of Australia is a man named John Miller, and he is accompanied with a partner whose name is Mary Luck, who claims that she is the reincarnate Mary Magdalene. I am not sure if John follows the teachings of Saul of Tarsus or not. He pretty much rules out all of the scriptures as being inspired by Elohim and teaches what he calls as the divine truth. He says that the scriptures are, well, of course the translations are full of errors, and the writings of Saul and his followers are certainly false, but he claims that they're all false. The problem with this is the true Messiah spoke of the credibility of the writing of the prophets, and he certainly groomed 2 eyewitnesses to record his account as well, out of his 12 disciples. The true Messiah taught the need to live by our Creator's word. How are we to live by his every word if we don't have a word to live by? By dismissing the teachings of the prophets and the eyewitnesses to our Messiah's walk here in the flesh, John can write his own entrance onto the scene, which he has, and therefore he can dismiss the prophecies about coming in the clouds and such, and all the other prophecies about Yeshua that he does not match up with. And it's convenient. He bears witness to himself and comes in his own name, and he is false. Yeshua plainly taught that anyone that comes in their own name, like that, well, first of all, he says, you'll believe those people, and you do. You believe all the pastors on the pulpits and stuff today that come in their own name. You don't believe his servants and his Father's servants who his word testifies to. Yet this man John does have followers, and he's not in an insane asylum yet, so he is still leading people astray from the truth, even as crazy as his claims are. The third self-proclaiming Messiah that I'm going to speak of today is Jose Miranda. This one claims that he is also the Antichrist, which I'll explain in a minute. Sadly, many are following him as well. This man is preaching his lies to his followers in 35 nations on nearly 300 radio programs. He broadcasts twice a week to 103 different countries and has his own satellite channel and is on 600 cable companies, according to Wikipedia. Wikipedia also claims that there are already millions volunteering their lives to help make his lies spread. And compare that to how few are actually helping their Creator spread his truth. Amazing. It's amazing what people will choose to believe in this dark world. It's amazing what they'll refuse to hearken to as well. The reason that Jose claims that he is the anti-Messiah is because he no longer teaches the Messiah of Nazareth or the Jewish teachings, but he only teaches to follow the Messiah according to the teachings of Saul of Tarsus. Now, there you go. You listen to the popularity of this man. As I just said, Wikipedia says he has millions of followers. They love the teachings of Saul of Tarsus, just like all of Christianity does. Jose has announced that he will be transfigured back into a spirit being 438 days from April 19th of this year. This date figures to be June 30th of 2012, which is 18 days before the real Messiah will return. This date is also 34 days after his non-return that Wineland has prophesied. I'm speaking against these people because Satan is using them to distract people from the truth. I'm standing up for the people who my father would like to call into his family. They are leading the masses down rabbit trails and away from the truth and that would deliver them. I am just standing up for the truth and standing against that which is false and crying out to people to leave the lies. One thing that I have not found yet on the scene is a self-proclaiming Messiah that is speaking on restored truth or rebuilding the waste places, nor one that is speaking the truth about the abomination of desolation, Saul of Tarsus. We do not have a Messiah yet who has returned with his robe dipped in blood and a sword. And we don't have one because we are not going to have the true Messiah returning until he returns in the clouds. And the clouds are not the web as old Raymond Elwood says that they are. Yet we do not have much longer to wait either for the true Messiah's return. Yahweh Elohim has sent forth his servant to cry out to you to make straight your paths and to stop listening to the teachings of men and to turn to him. I doubt that many of you will turn to the three false messiahs that I've spoken of today, but some will because some already have, especially with Jose. Millions have. But I do believe that many of you will turn to the Raymond Elwood that's out in the world today because he's picking up steam. When the destruction intensifies, people are going to be willing to hearken to him. And this is sad when my Father is offering you a chance to turn to his path. If you're going to be delivered through the coming time of trouble in the coming weeks and months, you will have to turn to the truth that is the only thing that will deliver you. In order to do this, you need to learn what the truth is. I have been sent to bear witness to his truth. My Father's word testifies to what I have spoken and that it is from him. Saul of Tarsus is the abomination of desolation. Anyone who still upholds the doctrines of Saul is false. One thing that is common with most all of these false witnesses and false prophets and false messiahs is they embrace the teachings of Saul. There are a few exceptions to this because Satan has this covered as well. He has the exceptions covered. I've spoken on that in previous videos here as well. But most of you hold fast to a false saved by grace salvation that omits why we are created. And of course, even the people that are embracing that Saul is false have still held on to doctrines that omit why we were created and everything else, and they still hold on to other lies. The real Messiah testified against Saul. Saul came in his own name, just as these other false servants have come in their own name as well. Even the ones that are testifying that Saul is false are still coming in their own name. There's only one that his word has testified to, that testifies that I'm speaking on his behalf. The name of our Creator is his perfect righteous character. It's what his name represents, and his true word defines it. Saul and his followers come in a different name, and they represent a different Elohim, one that is not real. Just as the other false witnesses and false ambassadors come in their own name as well. If you cry out to a false Elohim in the coming time of affliction, he will not be able to hear you, and the true Elohim will not hear you. But today he is still crying out to you to leave your false images of him and turn to him in his truth. In order to do this, you're going to have to believe him. You're going to need to lay siege to why he created you. He created you to be made in his image.